If you've clicked on this video, you're probably running a home or field service business with more than 10 employees or working with commercial clients like property managers, and your software just isn't keeping up. It's costing you time, money, and growth. So let's fix that. Now, if you watch any of our other videos, like the ones over here, you've probably seen me recommend tools like House Call Pro, Jobber, and Thrive. And for startups with small teams, they're great. But here's the catch. Once your business starts growing, a lot of these tools stop working. In almost every free consultation I do for scaling businesses, I hear the same thing. This software just isn't cutting it anymore. And that's because platforms like these are what we call out-of-the-box software, pre-built for very specific workflows and specific business types. So if your processes don't match how the tool is designed, you're forced to change how you work just to make the software fit. And that's where things break. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly where these tools fall short, especially for growing businesses and those working with commercial clients. And more importantly, I'll walk you through the solutions we actually recommend and help implement for our own clients like ServiceTitan and Zuper that are built to handle scale, complexity, and serious growth. For those new here, my name is Joe Guevara, founder of Freehash Digital, a digital transformation and marketing agency specialized in helping field service businesses become more efficient and drive growth. If you need a hand with anything field service tech or marketing, we offer free 15-minute consultations in the link in the description below. And with that, let's dive right in. When I do paid consultations, I always start with a simple framework. I break down my clients' businesses down into 3 core areas: client acquisition, operations and dispatch, and finance and data. Why? Because that's the easiest way to see where the tech actually fits into your processes, and more importantly, where it can drive real growth or save time and money. It helps business owners stop guessing and start making smarter software decisions that actually pay off. This is important because when I run this exercise, there's usually 2 primary scenarios and some secondary scenarios that cause people to get some sort of buyer's remorse when using small business software like HCP, Jobber, and Thrive. Scenario number 1 is when they might be a bit too big for the software and they've developed specific processes that the platform just can't handle. So they end up patching the gaps with workarounds or manual processes, which of course defeats the whole point of using software to boost efficiency. Scenario number 2 is about businesses that serve commercial clients or want to. Tools like House Call Pro, as the name suggests, are built for residential jobs and B2C workflows. So when you start working with commercial clients, things can get messy. Take property management companies, for example. You might need to service multiple addresses, but send one invoice to the same company or even in bulk. Most residential-focused platforms can't separate the service location from the billing entity, which creates a lot of confusion and manual work, especially as it breaks down into your QuickBooks account or accounting software. I'll break this down in more detail later in the video. There are a few more niche scenarios where smaller systems like these might cause some difficulties. These platforms are what's known in the industry as all-in-one software, meaning they function as different types of software simultaneously, like a CRM, a scheduling tool, an invoicing tool, and more. This consolidation is generally what most businesses want, as long as your business matches how the software functions. On the flip side, if you need more advanced or specific capabilities in any of those 3 segments above, acquisition, operations, or finance and data, you have to resort to either a manual integration with another system, if it exists, or change the way you're running your business, which, as most of you know, can be challenging. All that said, it's very appealing for businesses who run into these situations to still use some of these platforms simply because of the low price point, ranging from $50 to $350 a month in most situations. Sometimes it makes sense, especially for startups, to adapt to the platform instead of the other way around. However, if you've already been in business for several years, or if you've gone gangbusters in growth and expanding the amount of trucks and techs that you have in the field, it actually becomes far more cost-effective and beneficial to the business to find a more robust solution that might cost a bit more for the software, but saves you a heck of a lot more time and money in your operations, which becomes clearly apparent when your revenues are over $500,000 or more. That's why it's so important to understand your own business processes before you start trialing or demoing new software. Because if you don't know what your systems actually need or what your processes are costing your business, it's almost impossible to tell if a platform is worth the investment or if it'll deliver real ROI. This is exactly why so many of our own clients reach out to us. We help make the software selection process faster, clearer, and a whole lot easier. So if you want to save some time, feel free to book that free consultation and we'd be happy to help. That being said, you can definitely do this yourself. So here are some of the main issues that you might run into and some alternatives that could make sense. When it comes to customer acquisition, the biggest gaps usually show up in marketing and sales tools. If your business relies on calling, texting, or email marketing, most of these platforms do offer basic features, but they're still evolving. For example, Jobber recently rolled out voice AI capabilities, which is a step forward, like you can see in my video here. That said, some clients have some more complex requirements when it comes to automating your lead generation channels, like from your website or Google Business Profile, and especially if you're doing any meaningful amount of pay-per-click advertising, which is usually most efficient when tied to your CRM or field service management platform. In this case, you might have to invest in a dedicated CRM specifically for marketing purposes like Keep, HubSpot, or Zoho, or use an all-in-one that's stronger on the marketing and SEO side like Thrive for small businesses, as long as your operations and scheduling requirements aren't overly complex. On top of that, if you need advanced marketing tracking for your phone system, if you do paid ads as an example, you might need something like CallRail for your phone system, which can then overlap with some of these entry points of some of these other platforms. If you do go through the dedicated CRM route, you can still integrate these platforms with the all-in-one systems and just replace the specific advanced functionality you need. But that's where it's incredibly important to have a clear process map of how your customer and job data flows through all of your funnels and these systems seamlessly, from marketing through operations into your finance and data systems. The second process category is your operations and scheduling, which usually includes processes related to quoting and invoicing. This is where 80% of the challenges come from when looking at turnkey platforms. So I'll run through some of the subcategories here. Let's talk about scheduling and dispatch. I'm touching on this first because this is usually the process that's the most tied with your marketing and acquisition process. The most common is some sort of integration either directly on your website or forms that feed into these systems for the highest efficiency, like a booking link, which eliminates any manual data entry and errors, all the way to fully booking and paying for jobs directly that a smaller volume of service businesses do that might work for like transactional industries as an example. As you can imagine, these processes vary greatly from business to business, even in the same sub-industry of field services like HVAC or plumbers, depending on your business model, which is why it's much harder for turnkey platforms to appeal to clients that need much more custom workflows. Our second subcategory are the specific features related to scheduling and dispatch. The most common for field services is intelligent routing, GPS and fleet management, as well as time tracking and payroll, all of which generally become much more valuable to automate the larger your business is. Routing, or specifically intelligent routing, is probably one of the most impactful and sought after solutions as a business grows that really isn't available in cheaper systems, primarily because this feature has a higher cost, and it doesn't really make sense to track one or two trucks for the most part. So as your business scales, traditional routing processes starts costing your business more and more money. To solve this, businesses can move from basic route planning to what's called intelligent routing and dispatch. That means you can automatically load jobs into the system, and it not only suggests the most efficient routes, but also assigns those jobs to the right techs with the right skill sets based on regions, territory, or even real-time location, whether you're doing it in advance or if you get an emergency call that needs same-day service. This becomes a total lifesaver for seasonal businesses like I've been working with recently that need to schedule hundreds of jobs at once without spending hours doing it manually. Not only can businesses save time with the actual process of doing all of the work involved, which is a big part of the ROI of routing features, you can even optimize the routes based on gas consumption or travel time or even drive distance, because some of these solutions actually integrate with Google Maps real-time data, which is partly why these systems cost a lot more than simpler solutions. Then you have employee tracking. Most smaller systems offer basic GPS, but it's usually on action, meaning it only tracks a location when somebody punches in or takes a specific action on the app. And that's fine for many small teams. But it's not the same as real-time GPS tracking, which unlocks features like live updates, automations, and even client notifications to give like an Uber-like experience. So if a tech is stuck in traffic or running late, your back office and your customer can know right away if you choose to. When you look at this at scale, this isn't just a nice to have. It hugely impacts your brand, your customer experience, and your overall operational efficiency. And finally, the last subcategory I'll touch on is the quote to cash process, meaning all the steps you need from estimation to quoting to your invoicing and payment process, all the way to tracking that for the next season. 99% of field service software has this functionality, but the difference is how it's actually built and used, and this is where the devil is in the details. The biggest challenge here shows up when you're working with commercial clients. In residential jobs, it's simple. The property you service is tied directly to the person you invoice. But once you move into larger, high-ticket commercial projects, it gets more complex. You might need to invoice a property management company for multiple locations, send bulk invoices on a set schedule, or consolidate work orders with detailed line items across different properties. Most small all-in-one platforms just can't handle that without a ton of manual reporting and admin work, ultimately costing you time and increasing the chance for errors. Not to mention how you actually want to schedule these projects when working on multi-day projects is impossible in these systems without significant workarounds. If you're looking at targeting the commercial segment seriously or need the capabilities I listed before, this is where specialized field service management platforms become well worth the increase in cost because of the amount of time and money you can then save your business. There's usually two solutions I typically recommend in this space, Zuper and ServiceTitan, and they both address these challenges very differently. ServiceTitan is a scaled-up all-in-one solution. They're much more customizable than small business solutions like Housecall Pro and Jobber, but all of that customization is built within the platform, meaning that they will give you everything you need functionality-wise in their system across a bunch of different modules, but that is a double-edged sword. Even though they are customizable, their platform is built to be self-contained, meaning if any part of their platform doesn't meet your needs, it's very difficult to simply get another piece of software to do that function and plug it into the system. That said, if it does everything you need it to exactly as you need it, then it's a great platform and generally well reviewed by end users who fit that mold. A big downside, as many business owners who've demoed with ServiceTitan can attest, is the price point, which tends to start at around $2,000 per month for the smallest clients, not including their sub-brands, and in certain situations, a percentage fee based on total revenue. That is, unless you get punted down to those sub-brands like Aspire or Field Routes, which are drastically different systems from what you would see from the main platform. Now, I can see the line of thinking here to charge based on revenue percentage, where they're justifying that they're helping you grow your business. But personally, even as a digital transformation specialist, operational efficiency by itself isn't directly correlated with your success in generating revenue, which a lot of business owners tend to agree that revenue percentage charges are usually a deal breaker. The second solution, and the one I've been recommending more and more recently and also implementing for my own clients, is Zuper. Zuper is what's known as a best-in-breed software as opposed to all-in-one. It's about half the cost of something like ServiceTitan, but with very similar feature sets when it comes to operations, from real-time GPS tracking, invoicing, inventory management, and more. Zuper's big downside is its model, which is best in breed, meaning it has very advanced capabilities relative to cost across all of the features it specializes in. But it does need to integrate with separate systems like marketing CRMs like HubSpot if you wanted an exact feature-to-feature comparison. That said, because of how it's built, the integrations it allows can easily make multiple software act like a single system. Not to mention that I have several clients actually getting by with just using Zuper by itself because they don't need a huge marketing CRM in the first place. And by itself, Zuper can act as a basic CRM if you don't need complex email marketing campaigns and simply need the advanced operational capabilities at a lower price point. For those that do need those features, more often than not, best-in-breed solutions are usually still cheaper, even if you take into account the total cost of all the different solutions you need after integrations, not to mention having the flexibility and customization you can't really see in other platforms, including ServiceTitan. One of the biggest benefits of a platform like Zuper is that, unlike ServiceTitan, it's natively built to integrate into other solutions, meaning if you already have a CRM, accounting system, or other platforms, you can usually integrate those systems directly, like the systems I mentioned earlier for client acquisition like HubSpot, Zoho, Keep, and more. And that's where specialists like Rehash can come in to create truly customized solutions tailored to your exact business needs compared to turnkey software. In fact, HubSpot, for those who don't know, is one of the top CRMs for small businesses, is actually an investor in Zuper and has one of the best CRM integrations between them that I've seen that together creates capabilities that actually exceed solutions like ServiceTitan in many cases, especially when it comes to marketing and growth strategies. So price-wise, Zuper starts at about $1,100 a month for about 10 users, with some additional costs for advanced functionality like OBD2 fleet management, white-labeled client portals, and some new functions that are on the roadmap that I'm very excited to test out real soon. All that said, it's definitely worth comparing the two. So you can book a demo directly with ServiceTitan using the link in the description below. And if you're interested in learning more about Zuper, you can book a free discovery call with me directly to see if it's a fit or if a turnkey solution might be good enough for your business like Housecall Pro, Jobber, or Thrive. Now, our last section is a bit more simple, but just as important, and that's finance and data. I segment this separately because of the use case I mentioned earlier when it comes to commercial properties and how some businesses would need to manage and track invoicing to different accounts and for different job costing purposes, and how it reflects in your accounting system through your accountants and bookkeepers or your internal staff. Whether you are using the cheapest solution like HCP or Jobber all the way up to ServiceTitan, all of them usually offer some kind of accounting integration, usually with QuickBooks, Xero, and sometimes FreshBooks. However, what a lot of businesses don't realize is what a company might mean when it comes to integrations. So let's take a look at QuickBooks specifically. There are two versions of QuickBooks, desktop and online. For the most part, when a company says that they have an integration, it usually means QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Desktop is usually a rarer type of integration, so when you're looking for a new system, always ask them which version of QuickBooks they integrate to, especially if you have desktop. The second thing to look at is what data is actually being integrated. For example, I could say that I have a QuickBooks integration by simply feeding invoice values from any platform into your QuickBooks. But as most accountants would tell you, as you grow, your books usually aren't that simple, and you might need to do something like inventory tracking, accounts payables, payroll, and others. So that's why it's important to dig into these details, because not all integrations are created equally. Lastly is which way the integration syncs. Most integrations are one-way integrations, meaning that the data usually goes from your field service system into QuickBooks. But sometimes you might run processes in QuickBooks directly that you would need to get synced back into your field service system, which would require a two-way integration. So if you think you're in this category, this is where you need to be very specific with the software you're assessing as to what kind of integration you need. When it comes to capabilities, higher-end solutions tend to have more data that can be synced, and more flexible ways that the data can be synced to your accounting system and vice versa. Things like inventory management and time tracking are probably the most common, but just a few of the types of data that we haven't talked about that's available in higher end platforms that makes sense from a financial perspective. Or to the second part of this section, which is data. As businesses mature, it becomes more and more important to do comprehensive job costing, which doesn't just mean your process of how you quote a client a job, although it is part of it. Larger businesses do analytical job costing, which means taking all of the inputs from materials, your field rate labor, back office labor, and relate that to all of the revenue sources in order to calculate gross and net profits at various levels of the business. Depending on how big your business is, this can have a big impact in your ability to scale or achieve competitive profitability, especially if you're expecting some kind of exit in your business at some point in the future. As you can see, integrations are usually a bit more complicated than they seem at first, and details and clear processes definitely matter, which is why digital transformation agencies like Rehash exist to help make sure that these all come together properly. So to bring it all together, hopefully it hits home that choosing a field service software, especially if you're over 5 employees or doing 7 figures or more, starts with a clear understanding not just with what features you think you need, but what processes or problems you actually need to automate in your business. If you need a hand with that and you have more than 5 employees, feel free to book a free 15-minute consultation with us to help assess your business, and we can help you save time on your search by narrowing down which options are the best to invest time worth doing a demo with. If you have less than 5 employees, you can still book a free consultation, but usually the main 3 platforms we recommend are Housecall Pro, Jobber, and Thrive, depending on your situation. You can check out this video over here for a quick overview for small businesses, or check in the links below for free trials that include the latest discount offers so you can get hands-on these systems yourself. If you found this video helpful, it helps us a lot if you hit that like button and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest technology and marketing insights for your home and field service business. If you want us to review a piece of software that we haven't covered in our channel, or have any questions about home and field service marketing or technology, pop them in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer them there or in a future video. Thank you so much for watching. This is Joe signing out, and I'll see you all in the next one.